Hey everyone, welcome to the Wheels2Walking podcast, the podcast with a guy in a wheelchair and a guy not in a wheelchair.
What up?
That never gets old. Yeah, so
2 podcasts in 1 week, kind of.
sort of, yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah, that was interesting because we were all like, I pretty much didn't think I could pull one off, and then like a Friday afternoon, or was it Saturday afternoon? I was like, I'm kind of feeling that.
Yeah, we were at the gym together.
I could probably do this. Yeah.
Yeah, we were like at the gym, and you're just like, you know what? Let's pull out a potty, boy.
Yeah.
So we called up AJ and made it happen. But we're back on a regularly scheduled programming. We're back.
Well, for podcasts only, like we've pretty much like one of the things that I knew. So this break was obviously a forced break. It was a break that I didn't choose, and I still am not kind of choosing. But
You didn't choose the break life. The break life chose you.
Chose me. I didn't choose.
Same with the wheel life.
I didn't choose to get hit by a car. The car chose me. Okay. But one of the things I wanted to make sure that we had in place before we kind of got back was merch. I was like, okay, it's time that we get some streams of income going, and since we're gonna kind of be distraction free, and what I mean by that is we won't have to be shooting, editing videos. We can just kind of focus on this whole endeavor, because getting merch and stuff is not it's not an easy task, but
yeah, the merch thing is like our main focus right now. AJ, I was telling you about the curtain, by the way. The curtain's like open and it's like blinding my eye.
I was wondering what was going on.
I was
here.
like trying to like motion to him. I'm like, the thing. Yeah, I was like
distracted me. That's why I went dead. I was like,
I know. And I was like, I'm gonna pick up the slack. No, but the whole merch thing is you did it again. The whole merch thing has been our main focus the past like couple of weeks, just because we've been, kind of, it's always been like, oh, we'll do merch eventually. And now with this break, especially, it's just been like, okay, let's freaking buckle down and get this merch situation figured out. And that was the other thing, was we were so, I don't know, we have so many ideas for merch, but we had to figure out what square one for merch was. Like, where is our starting point? Because we can't start with 50 items and, a ton of accessories and, all these different things. Because we, number one, don't know what everyone wants, and we also don't know what the demand is and all that kind of stuff. But, like, that was kind of the biggest hurdle, I guess.
Yeah, and luckily we've got a real experienced, like, manufacturer and supplier who, like, we're homies with. We've gone down to the shop a couple of times. We talk and text with, and he has an experience building his own, clothing line. And I'm currently wearing one of his shirts right now, and you guys have seen me wear his clothes all the time. And, he, I don't think, is steering us in any wrong direction. And he's giving us cool suggestions, and we're running stuff past him. So we're pretty lucky to have that resource available. And, this isn't, just some, Chinese knockoff. We're just sending off a design to some place where they're going to print it off and send you some crappy shirt. Like, we have handpicked these shirts. They're made in the U.S. They're cruelty-free. They're going to be manufactured in the U.S. And what I mean cruelty-free, I mean like no sweatshops. They're going to be manufactured in the U.S., and they're going to be supporting another person with a disability. He's got type 1 diabetes, and he started this company as a way to pay for his insulin because he couldn't afford his own insulin, which is like, welcome to the American healthcare system, everyone, where people die because they can't afford their medicine.
Literally.
So, it's super cool to be able to have, access to this, and, we got some cool stuff coming, because
really cool stuff.
The square one that I think
cool stuff, slick stuff.
Yeah, I think square one, because people thought we were probably gonna do a design like what's behind the brick wall right here, or maybe what's behind my head, or
just like a generic logo,
a generic W2W. But I didn't want to go down that route at all, and I think you guys are gonna be really stoked and really pleased and really surprised at what we did come up with. And I don't really want to say too much more than that, because it's gonna be cool,
cool. And it'll be dope when we reveal it and everything. But we're like super stoked, and hopefully it'll be coming in the next couple weeks. So, yeah. What's been going on with your health, bro?
I mean, what's taken up like pretty much all of my time recently is, learning how to manage my new medications, and doing a lot of physical therapy, both at physical therapy and on my own. A lot of you guys know my history about physical therapy, and I do a lot of my stuff on my own. Like, I taught myself how to walk again on my own, which is like a big deal. So I've been doing a lot of pool therapy, where I'll just jump in the pool and I'll do exercises in the pool. and my endurance has been going up, and my strength has been going up, and my ability to put, weight on my leg in a way that I wasn't, able to before has been improving, which is really nice. But the big one that's really obnoxious is like these blood thinners that I'm on. I have like, this is a pamphlet for those of you on visuals. I was given a binder. Like, this is an actual legitimate folder full of tons of paper based on like, there's easily 20, 30 pieces of paper in here. All like, what do you do if you hit your head? Like, what do you do if you cut yourself while shaving? Like, what do you do if you start feeling a pain or getting dizzy, or if you, like what
do you do if you cut yourself shaving?
If it doesn't stop in 24 hours, go to the emergency room.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So you're just supposed to like bleed for 24 hours?
I mean, basically, like, you don't clot, so it's an anticoagulant, anti-clotting, and another big thing is like food restrictions. Like, there's so many foods I can't eat anymore because I don't even want to look through all this. So many papers. So those you on
it's a lot of like leafy greens and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, that's one of them. A lot of greens, and if I do have greens, I have to have them in a bunch of moderation because vitamin K coagulates the blood again.
Whenever I think vitamin K, I think it's potassium, but that's the element K. I have this weird thing in my brain. My science teacher, like a long time ago.
But is it Reliant?
No, it's not Reliant K.
It's not Reliant K. Okay.
No, it was a metaphor related to Circle K. You know the place Circle K, and he
like
always
66 or whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's like a little convenience store called Circle K here in America, and he like ingrained it in my brain that whenever you see it, you're supposed to think Circle Potassium. And it's like so dumb, but every time I see Circle K, I'm like, oh, Circle Potassium. It's
time
so
to get your
dumb.
bananas.
It's so dumb, but it's really funny.
Yeah, but that's the most annoying part is you pretty much just have to pick an exact, precise diet of foods and stick to it. There's not really a lot of room for fluctuation, which yeah, because I don't have a restrictive enough diet already. Cool. So that's pretty obnoxious.
But honestly, this break has been kind of crazy because like number one, with YouTube, like the biggest advice that people have is like to be consistent,
At minimum one a week.
Yeah.
At a minimum one a week.
There are some successful YouTubers that can get away with doing like, an awesome, epic, big episode once a month or, like Nerd City or whatever.
But they have to earn that.
Exactly. You can't just start off like that.
You can't just decide I'm going to do one upload a month. No, you have to earn.
Yeah. And luckily the podcast has been our consistency, which is awesome. I mean, even though we did miss 1 week and we were late on the last one, it has been for the most part, for the NASCAR, it's been very consistent, and it's been really cool to see all the response and everything, especially in the Facebook group, like all the love that we've been getting and people, commenting in there.
Yeah, and even in the YouTube comments, you guys are fun. Like, it's nice to, and it's also cool to be like, oh, they actually listened for 90 minutes because they're commenting on the last thing we talked about.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
And it's cool because we both listen to a lot of podcasts, so I
listen to this one back. I have a really fun time even listening to this podcast.
Yeah, literally, and so it's fun to realize that like not only are we like YouTubers, but we're also podcasters. Like two things that we both consume like a ton of.
Yeah,
which is really fun.
And I'm really appreciative of you guys listening and watching more. I think because
to the podcast.
Yeah, because podcasts. So it's like when it comes to like loyalism, I think the most loyal people are your podcast people.
Totally.
Like the hardcore of the hardcore are your podcast people. And, then you have your people that watch every upload on YouTube. But let's be honest, I don't even watch every upload of my favorite people because it's YouTube and it's just hard to keep up. There's only so many hours in a day, but with podcasts you can listen, and so you can listen while you're doing so many things. Absolutely.
Like I listen to, and I've been on the like 1.5 speed game recently, where I'll listen to like faster. I've been listening to like some educational podcasts. Like the other day, I like cleaned our whole kitchen, and I was able to like listen to like 3 podcasts, and I was like, I'm being so productive, and I'm like learning shit. It's like the best.
Smart.
It's the best. Like it makes all the like mundane activities like kind of enjoyable because you can like listen to something while you're.
I agree. I have no problem running errands now.
Yeah.
Running errands, grocery shopping, doctor's appointments, waiting rooms, like anything. I've been doing a lot of that.
A pair of Bluetooth headphones and a podcast, you can do anything.
You can do anything.
Except for edit videos.
You know what I've been doing?
Sucks.
This is totally ballsy. I've been putting my AirPods in the pool, and I've been listening to my podcast while I'm in the pool because I don't dunk my head underwater.
Oh, you're just like doing lunges or whatever.
Yeah, I'm doing like.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm walking back and forth, and then walking left to right, and then like lunging and like squatting and like doing kicks and stuff like that.
Interesting.
My head never goes underwater, so I can do all of my pool therapy listening to music.
That's cool.
Or podcasts.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about it. I was like, oh, I wonder if it'd be cool to buy Richard like a pair of like underwater headphones or something like that. It'd be like a cool gift.
Fam, I'm good. I got it.
Yeah, that'd be tight. But
there's a guy that swims laps next to me who has some like waterproof headphones. Or whatever.
That's pretty dope, honestly. That's really cool though. I was gonna say that's the one part that would suck about like doing water exercises is you don't have any like music or anything.
So boring. And there's one TV in the corner that plays like president news the whole time, and
you can probably go up and like fiddle with it.
Every time I get the opportunity, I turn the volume all the way down. But granted, some boomer's gonna jump in the hot tub and just crank it all the way up. Yeah, and I'm like, cool. I'm so glad that your listening volume trumps everybody else's, desire.
Trumps?
Oh God. Everyone else's desire to want to have a peaceful pool experience. But no, you don't read subtitles. Just turn it up really loud.
Yeah, that's like how the sauna TV is too. Like people will change it. The funniest is when there's like a bunch of people watching the TV and someone will go up and change it. It's like, oh, so you think what you want to watch is more important than what everyone else was just watching. Cool.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't care that much. But I did want to point out something else about our audience. You had a really cool message the other day from Daryl.
This is cool. So our friend Daryl lives in the Northern Territories of Canada, in Yukon, which is near Alaska.
Like real up there, like in the middle of like bumfuck.
Like way up there. He's the only wheelchair user that he's ever seen in his town. Like no one. And he was out on the ski slope, and he was sit skiing because he does he does every adaptive thing you could possibly think of. Like
adaptive underwater basket weaving?
Yes. So I can't wait till actually we go out there and shoot some videos with him because he's got so much sick equipment. He's
got a lot of toys.
So many toys. It's like Carlos, but almost better. Like but it's like a snow version of Carlos. Carlos is Florida version. So he's got like an adaptive snowmobile and like a bow head and like these. He goes cross country skiing over frozen lakes and like he does really cool stuff.
I'm imagining some epic Peter McKinnon style content.
Yes.
Canadian shit.
And he was saying how he sent me a video. He's like, hey man, I got a cool story for you. He goes, I was just
and it was like a video.
Yeah, it was like on Instagram. And he's like, I was just at the ski slope and I was loading up my chair, and my ski into the truck, and some kid ran up on me. He's like probably 10 years old. And he goes, hey man, can I guess what level you are? And Daryl was like, well, that's an interesting question for a kid to ask. He probably knows something if he's asking to ask me what level. And he guessed low, and I told him, a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. And we started talking, and he started asking me about like my hand controls and, how I transfer and like all these questions that I'm like, how does this kid know this stuff? So he's like, I asked him, and he goes, yeah, dude. And the kid, 10 years old, goes, oh, I watched this guy on YouTube named Wheels2Walking. And I'm like, what the hell? What? So then
so cute.
So then Daryl videotapes the kid talking to me, and his name's Lorik. So hi Lorik, if you're watching, what's up?
What up, Lorik?
And I thought that was really cool, man, because it's really cool to see young people interested and entertained and engaged. And I was the most
curious,
and then but like I thought his approach was genius. Like what a cool way to like start a conversation with a person with a disability without it being, hey, what happened to you? Like, that's not a cool way to start it. But, like, hey, can I guess what level you are? That's a cool way to start it. I mean, granted, you're assuming it's a spinal cord injury. It could be a bazillion other injuries.
But maybe he, like, assumed it was spinal cord injury for reasons that you might know. Like, you know, you can look at someone with, like, spina bifida and be like, oh, they have spina bifida or, like, something other than spinal cord. But sometimes you can tell. So maybe he, like, for whatever reason could tell or something.
Yeah, some disabilities have very obvious cues to them, and then some disabilities don't. I think about like a quad, like you look at their hands, that's a cell. Spina bifida people usually have like shorter legs, like not just tinier, but like shorter legs too. Yeah. So you're like, oh,
because it's like from birth, their legs don't fully develop into adult legs. Whereas like spinal cord injury, your legs probably grew to adult length or whatever. Maybe it happened when you're young, but if it happened when you were after puberty or whatever.
Exactly. And then there's, like obviously, EDS, POTS, cerebral palsy. Those are a little bit harder because your body doesn't, actually, I think CP, I've seen people, their feet go out. That's kind of like a cue, like if their feet are like their toes are out.
Like kind of like duck-footed kind of.
Yeah. But that's not a giveaway. You can't tell. But the bottom line is it's cool, man. And I'm like, I was excited because it's a young person who's educated, who's excited, who's informed, and was super curious, and got to see the sit ski and got to see the hand controls and got to see Daryl load in and out of the truck and had a cool conversation. And Daryl was like, these are the type of questions that like college students ask me, like physical therapy, like college students ask me. He's like, this kid knew what was up.
He's like, dude, you're really changing the world. It's dope.
Yeah, and that's so flattering to me because I our audience is big, but it's not massive. But dude, I'm learning more and more and more that like a smaller engaged audience is so much more powerful than a big casual audience. Like,
yeah, and who knows, that kid might, because of these videos, maybe Lorik grows up and becomes a physical therapist or like something along the lines of helping people with spinal cord injuries or something.
Maybe engineers the new wheelchair that is going to revolutionize the world.
Yeah, who knows?
You never know.
Yeah, because everyone's been talking about the new wheelchair that would change everything for wheelchair users, but no one seems to be able to evolve past the manual wheelchair that's just been pervasive for so long.
Well, the manual wheelchair works for a lot of reasons, but it's also the same thing that was designed in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like there's not been a lot of advancement.
Yeah, and I mean, and to be fair, like there's not much difference between like a hospital wheelchair and like your chair visual wise. Like from initial looking, you're like, oh, that's a wheelchair. Oh, that's a wheelchair. You're not thinking they're like two completely different things. Like they kind of serve the same function. They're very basic.
To the layperson, sure.
Yeah, to the layperson. I mean, and even I've talked about this so many times recently to you, where I'll see other people's wheelchairs and I realize just how like little things about them I'm like, oh, that's weird. And I'm like, on Richard's chair it's so much more like elegant and beautiful. And not to toot HOC's horn all the time, but they make some really dope looking wheelchairs that it's so minimal and so like you don't realize how beautiful it is.
Elegant, precise, clean, like attention to detail. Like there's so much about it that it's like you look at it and you don't appreciate it until you compare it to something else.
Yeah.
Like even my other previous wheelchair was
a good one,
a really good wheelchair. But if you look at like
the where the seat back connects to the frame and like,
or how the axle connects to, the pillars or what, how the casters attach or the taper or the strap or the cushion or the clothing guards or the wheel. I mean, there's so much to it that it's like, if you know, but if you don't know, you don't know.
When you're looking at it, you're like, oh, that's how it should be, rather than like, holy crap, this is revolutionary. It's just like the highest iteration of like what a wheelchair should be, in my opinion. But
yeah, in my opinion too. I've been hunting for this wheelchair for a long time.
Yeah. This episode has been sponsored. I'm just kidding. No, it's not sponsored by HOC, but we really love those guys. They're awesome.
I mean, yeah, those guys are really great. I'm really appreciative of the guys at Hands On Concepts and really appreciative of the wheelchair, and that was really cool that Lorik had the conversation with me, and shout
out Lorik. If you're listening, Lorik, you're the man, and we really appreciate all you guys listening out there, and it's cool to hear that our audience is respectful and cool and curious, and it's awesome. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. I start to even think about like we're making waves, and in so many places, in so many areas, and in so different ways. It's like, this is my life. I live it every day. This is your life. You live it every day with me. I'm also deep in the community now when I wasn't before, but our community is small and very strong. It's a very strong and small community. And with inside of this small, strong community, there's a lot of badasses in there so like in my head, I'm like, oh, this is just like my normal, like this is how it should be. But like, I forget that perceptually to everyone else, this kind of a wheelchair user doesn't really exist. And
it's a look into a world that you would never really know about. I think that's why people watch us that are like able-bodied,
I mean, that's the reason why channels like Barcroft TV get so much so many eyeballs on it.
Totally.
Because
and like Molly Burke and all that kind of stuff.
They specialize in looking into a world. I mean, I remember like Vice 2012, 2011, 2013, when they used to do those really cool documentaries where they would look into subcultures.
Yeah.
Or all these like crazy things that were happening in different countries. Like that was my favorite because it's like, oh, that's a look into a life, into a world, into a thing that I would literally have never ever had access to ever.
Yeah, I think that's why people love like MTV Cribs and shit like that too, because it's like a look into the lives of the rich and famous.
Their favorite celebs.
Speaking of which, Jeff Bezos just bought the most expensive house in LA.
Which, why would you ever want to buy the most expensive house in the most inflated market in the entire U.S.?
Well, according to facts and data, Jeff Bezos, he bought this house. It's like $165 million.
Stats and facts and data.
Right. Literally, it's a $165 million house, and it accounted for 0.8% of his net worth. Imagine buying so the equivalent.
So do we know what he's worth right now? This is post-divorce, right?
Yeah, so this is post-divorce. He's still like one of the richest people in America.
Yeah.
So if you made so right now he's worth $131.9 billion. That's his net worth currently. So for context, it's not even 0.8%. It's an 1/8%. My bad. So it's not even zero. It's not even like close to 1%. It's an 1/8%. So it would be the equivalent of if you made $60,000 a year,
which is a pretty average postgraduate.
Yeah, that's solid
job.
If you're making $60,000 a year, I'd say you're doing pretty good. That's like spending $75 on a house. Imagine being able to buy like a decent house for $75 if you made $60,000.
Decent house? You mean the most expensive house in LA?
Yeah, I know, right? But the craziest thing, so it's the Warner Estate, which spreads out over 9 acres in Beverly Hills.
Is this so the Warner Brothers? Is that?
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was
the name like Warner, and being in LA, it makes sense that it would be called.
It was previously owned by David Geffen, another unimaginably wealthy man. So I don't know who David Geffen is. But it's pretty fascinating. Yeah, so the Warner Estate was designed in the 1930s for Jack Warner, who was the former president of Warner Bros.
Boom.
It took a decade to construct. It has terraces, guest houses, a tennis court, and a golf course.
But Amazon isn't
in Beverly Hills, dude.
What? Why would wait?
And that's just one of his houses. He's also spent
because Amazon is not in LA. Amazon's in Portland or Seattle or something like that, right?
Yeah, but they've got HQs everywhere. I mean, he's also spent. It said also in this article somewhere else.
If I had Bezos money, I'd be buying houses all over the world too. No way I'm about to stay in a hotel or an Airbnb. I'm buying houses.
Yeah, exactly. And it says that he spent around $80 million on a few New York apartments earlier this year. So it's not clear where his current permanent residence will be, but he's just got houses everywhere, bro.
I think when people buy quote unquote a few apartments, they buy them strategically so they can then make 4 apartments into one big apartment.
Yeah, maybe
like a 2-story New York apartment.
Yeah, I mean it's honestly crazy, but it's just insane to think of the fact that like Jeff Bezos, like in our lifetime, has become one of the like most wealthy and like powerful people, and it doesn't seem like he has any sign of like wanting to like slow down or anything.
Well, what I think I appreciate the most about Bezos is his forward thinking. And what I mean about that is like in 1994, he had, this little office and he was tippity
in like a garage or whatever,
and he was like messing around with his computer and like, he's like, yeah, we're going to start with books and then we're going to expand, into whatever. And, I'm already $1 million company, but, I still drive this like, 1989 Ford Taurus. And, he seems like the type of guy that like understands what I call the long con, like it's similar to the same guy. Who's the guy who started Alibaba? I
don't know.
I know who you're talking about.
I can't remember his name.
insanely rich.
He's one of the richest people in China.
Yeah.
And you know, he was one of these people that like when he was 6, he didn't understand. He wanted to learn English, and the only way he could learn English was by giving out tours of the city to English tourists. So because there was no English books in the libraries, there was no English taught in school, but he knew he wanted to learn English. So he started giving people tours of the city and then picked up English from those people. And, you know, I just think like there's certain people that I think are destined for greatness because they understand like the long term versus the short term. I mean, look at like Gary Vee's story. Like until he was 31, he was working at his dad's, you know, wine, you know, cellar, just hustling, you know, 14, 16 hours a day, you know, just grinding along, doing his thing. Like there's so many people out there, I think that, they get their overnight success that took 20 years. You know, it's just overnight recognition. I think it's like all of a sudden overnight they get recognized. They become like, for example, like Gary Vee wasn't around 3-4 years ago on social media really, but he owned like
he was, but only to the people that knew who he was. I mean, I remember. I remember reading
wine people. Yeah.
No, not necessarily 3-4 years ago, dude. I read Crush It in 2013. That was 7 years ago, and he was very much active in social media.
Huh. Well, I guess I mean it in the sense of like when
he didn't have 1 million followers, but he was very, very active in building. And that's the thing is that was before he built VaynerX. That was before he had his main company now that's literally a giant advertising agency. That was before he started any of that. But he's a very interesting person because he doesn't need to give out all the free value that he does, but he's trying to create massive legacy. Mm-hmm. And that's why he does what he does, because he could just chill. He could just, you know,
stay in his high tower and run his business.
I mean, he's got stock in Facebook, Uber, Twitter, Snapchat, and Twitch. Like he's got like so much stock in like badass companies that panned out in the long term majorly.
Well, not just that, is like he still has connections with his dad's wine, you know, company and distribution.
WineLibrary.com.
Yeah, he also his agency is the agency that is responsible for like running Super Bowl ads.
It's Fortune. It's like Fortune 100. Like it's crazy.
Like he does big. Not need to be doing what he's doing, but he does for, you know, for the long term, for legacy. And one of the things that I also
do you care about what people think about you when you die?
Not about me, but like the wheels that I've put in motion. You know, like I don't really care about what they think of me. I care about what's left behind. Mm-hmm. Like I think about like, okay, let's imagine like a crazy future where hypothetically Richard / Wheels2Walking create it all of a sudden has like his own spinal cord injury hospital. Let's do a pipe dream. You know what I mean? And
it reminds me about the naming a hospital after someone in a second, because there's a really funny story about that.
Okay, so is it like the Bill Cosby hospital?
No. Just go with it. Imagine that there's a hospital that's like the Richard Corbett hospital.
The Weinstein Hospital. Oh,
it's better.
All right, so. Yeah, so I think about that because it's like once I die out, who gives a shit about me anymore? I've got this legacy building that was built off of the back of, you know, this or the work or whatever. You know, that's the stuff I think about. I think about also like my children and their children. You know, I think about that for legacy, not necessarily be like, Richard was a great man. He was amazing. He was happy. He was inspirational. He was motivational. He did this. He did that. It's like just shut up. Like I don't. Like,
yeah.
Who cares? Who does it? Like I'm just a person.
You're more interested in the impact, I guess. Like the dent in the universe or whatever.
Like I want to spend 60 years creating a wave, so that and just set it free, so that when I'm not building a wave anymore, it's just whoosh,
Yeah, like Chris D'Elia was talking about on his podcast, he's like, it's an idea. Like Richard Corbett is not a person, it's an idea. Like if you can like it's kind of like Kobe Bryant, like the Mamba mentality thing that everyone's been talking about recently. That like he's the embodiment of like what super hard work, perseverance, family man, all this kind of stuff, like all bottled into like one person. And no one besides people in his inner circle knew him personally, but everyone can like embrace the like Mamba mentality or whatever. Same kind of thing with like Wheels2Walking. It's like not everyone's going to know what it's like to have a spinal cord injury or, it face even like crazy serious adversity in a physical way or whatever, but maybe they can embrace that, like the Wheels2Walking mentality or, the reason behind your tattoos mentality and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because like everyone faces adversity and everyone has their struggle. Everyone like has their own struggle. Like there's no way around it. Life is pain. Everyone struggles with something, and that's your responsibility in life is to deal with that shit.
Well,
and
I think about
if you can inspire people to deal with that in a way that's positive, I think that's amazing.
Well, it's like, how do you think it's been 6 weeks and I'm already back to living and work? I got hit by a fucking car. Like
literally,
I went back.
Like your girlfriend thought you were dead.
Yeah, I went back to the hospital because I've got secondary complications. Like this type of injury would ruin people for 3 months, 6 months, a year. Like
Totally.
it would derail them completely. And I just like
not even just physically, mentally too.
Yeah, physically and mentally. And like I've been through so many of these, and I say this in air quote, like stuff like this, that like I know what to do. And I know what not to do, and I know what type of like mentality I have to keep, and I know what type of attitude I have to keep, and I know what, motions I have to go through, and all this stuff. So it's like, this is weird because like I don't know how to say this without saying it the way I say it, but like it's pretty fucking inspirational that like a person who already has a major disadvantage is already back at it 6 weeks later.
No, it is.
Versus someone who was fully able-bodied that like, oh no, my life is ruined. My wrist hurts now. I've just been adapting. This wrist destroyed. Like it's so fucked. Like I bought new push rims for the wheelchair because I'm having a hard time pushing now.
Really?
Like I haven't had a chance to work out yet, but it even hurts to swim with it.
Did you get like grippy ones or something, or would you
they're
get?
Just bigger. Because like
the pinching motion
hurts
is harder.
It hurts to squeeze when it's small, but if it's a bigger, like if I grip on the tire, it doesn't hurt as bad if I just grip on the thing. But anyway, I just adapt and overcome, man. It's just a matter of like, okay, now I'm on this blood thinner medication for the rest of my life. That's extremely gonna be limiting, my diet and my activities, and I'm gonna be heavily monitored and getting blood tests and stuff like that. Like people could let it ruin their life, but I'm like, okay, that's a new thing I gotta deal with. Let's go.
Dude,
like
I think about it like with people with like chronic illnesses and stuff like that. They're constantly getting new diagnoses and things are another thing went wrong. Cool. Another thing I can't eat. Dope. Another thing I found out I'm allergic to. Another thing like it's just a series of unfortunate events. Like, we joked about it that one podcast before the car accident, and it's kind of true for some people, and like it sucks, but complaining isn't going to get you anywhere. You just got to fucking get through that shit.
Yeah, but I would love to find a way to somehow package in it and, instill that kind of mindset and that kind of attitude. And the way I know how to do that best is just power of example.
Totally.
For now, I'm sure I could write a book. Sure, I could write a program. Sure, I could go do public speakings and, all that jazz. But like, nah, I'll just do it how I'm doing it because that's the best way I know how to do it.
Totally.
And like, don't get it twisted. Like I had my moments, like it was mostly with, like Jalila for the most part. Cause I didn't really feel like, having any breakdowns in front of like you or, my mom or my sister or anything, but it wasn't even a breakdown. I was just like, I felt so defeated and so powerless and so overwhelmed. And like, I just wanted to throw in the towel. And there was definitely a couple of times where I was like, dude, what sounds fucking nice is a bullet in my face. Like, I was just like over it. And especially when I just was like in the hospital and I kept getting bad news 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 and like new problems were occurring because I was like in the hospital bed and it was like, and all this like expensive shit. And then like just all this mess that I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, and another one. And another one, and another one. It's just like nonstop about like all this possible crap. And it's like, I've got these like set of like guidelines and rules that I have in my head, and one's like you're allowed to feel your feelings, but it's like don't go negative, if you can't go positive, don't go negative, try to go positive as much as you possibly can, still have forward thinking, start thinking of the future and thinking of the plans, because I think too many people have this whenever they get hurt or they get injured, they go through something, they think, oh, well, I gotta like heal from this first and then I can get back to what I'm doing. But it's like, no, get back to what you're doing as fast as you can. And I see that in the spinal cord injury community a lot, where it's like, got to get back to walking before I can get back to living. And then it's
they spend 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's like, hey, you've just wasted a big chunk of your life because you're trying to get back something that like either you can't, or if you can, it's going to take a very, very long time. And you need to also be focusing on the rest of your life too, because neglecting the rest of your life is more damaging.
And you can be hopeful for the future too. Like you can be hopeful that science will catch up and that there'll be cures and that there'll be, you'll be able to electronically bridge the gap of the spinal cord. Like there's a lot of really cool research and things out there that are happening. I even know that recently I found out that Neuralink, the thing that Elon Musk is working on, is one of their goals is to help people with like spinal cord injuries and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Because basically they'll be like rewiring your brain. Like who says they couldn't be able to like rewire parts of your like spinal cord, things like that. And maybe if it's not even electronically bridging that gap, maybe it's like remapping parts of your brain to make it's all kinds of crazy shit. There's things happening.
And there's also stuff like, bowel and bladder and implants and, other, like hormones or therapies or medicines. Like there's lots of stuff out there, but
you can't be you can't count on that kind of stuff. It's like yes, you can be hopeful for the future, but like you also still got to like control what you can only control. And that is you getting back to your own life. Like you have no control over whether these things come out in a year or 10 years. Like, so the main priority is just to like get back to doing your shit.
Sit around and wait. Yeah. And it's interesting. I've actually, there's this guy named Eric. I've talked to you about him a lot
Eric
recently. Kondo. Yeah. I like Eric a lot. He's quite analytical and collects data and stuff like from spinal cord injury.
Eric Apartment. Sorry, that was so dumb.
Stupid ass motherfucker. So anyway, one of the things that he brought up in conversation, and he asked like the group, he goes, how many of you guys are actually invested in or care about a cure or research when it comes to, like walking again? And almost everyone was like, nah, no. It's like, it's the mainstream, it's the media, it's these companies, it's these scientists, it's everyone. It's like, we got to fix this problem. And then everyone in the community is like, yo, but it's like,
fix my bladder, dog.
It's not really a problem. Like, I'm trying to get bowel back. I'm trying to get bladder back. I'm trying to not have skin issues. Can you help me with blood clots? And
we made a wheelchair that can go up little stairs. And it's like, dude, like that's so impractical. It's giant. It's heavy. You got to charge it every night. Like all that.
How about those massive exoskeletons that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars that are literally just a dog and pony show? Like they literally are
walk for
so impractical. And yes, obviously when it comes to innovation, most first, second, third, fourth, fifth generations of anything is trash. And when the technology advances, it'll get better and better and better and smaller and smaller and smaller. And maybe, it'll get to the point where it'll be, built into clothes or whatever.
Yeah, that would be sick.
But for now it's like, oh, come on, everybody else who doesn't have a disability, who's not paralyzed. Cause it's like, we're looking for independence. We're looking for jobs. We're looking for bowel. We're looking for bladder. We're looking for accessibility. Like, and it's kind of interesting because everyone before they're disabled are not disabled.
Yeah.
So they think the only way to get back to where they were is to get back to
reverse the disability.
Is to reverse the disability. But it's like, nah, dude, that's not really how this works. And you guys hear me talk about this a lot, and I talk about it a lot because this is how I had to learn how to do it. And I talk about it a lot too because there's other people in the community that I've said these things to, or they've been listening very deeply and intently and have followed this practice. But it's like, you have to build a new compelling future, and not have to. You get the opportunity to. Granted, it's not a great starting point. It's -0. You are less. You are in negative fifth place, but you have the opportunity to turn this into a life that is a 7, 8, a 9, or a 10, because you get to design it from the ground up. You get to design your mentality. You get to design your activities. You get to design how you dress and how you act and what you do. And you get to build and design this completely new life. And it's like a lot of people try to get back to the life that they had, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you got to adapt your way through it. And when you adapt your way into it, you are thus creating a new future, but it may or may not be compelling. Like, I know people that, broke their back snowboarding and then jumped on a sit ski, and now they're like the best sit skier and like all of like
the world.
They're so like Red Bull and like X Games and like GoPro, and everyone's like sponsoring them, and they're like doing tricks and all this crazy shit, and it's dope and they love it. And he's like, dude, this is good. But I also know people that are snowboarders that tried to do it again, and they go, this isn't the same. I don't like this. They're like, this makes me more sad because it isn't like what it used to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of that. But, it's definitely this whole thing where it's like, you really gotta rebuild yourself. And, I think about, after this most recent accident of, being hit by a car and having, blood clots and stuff, there's a lot of stuff I gotta change, and stuff I have been changing,
Yeah.
I have to change. Like, there's a lot, I'm in the chair a lot now, because guess what? Not walking. I'm learning how to walk again, in a different way. And then a lot of the activities that I was doing before, I don't know if I can. Like, I haven't tried working out the same way I have, because dude, this wrist hurts so bad. Like, I don't know how I could do weights with a wrist that's janky. And I can barely,
maybe braces or something.
Maybe. I mean, I can't even open up like a jar. Like, I can't even lift my wheelchair into the back of my truck the same way. Like, I have had to find a new way to lift it in, like, there's a lot to it. And it's like, don't wait until you're quote unquote healed or quote unquote better.
I'll just wait until this risk, because who knows, it could be in 6 months it'll feel fine enough to like do these things again. So I'll just wait and sit in bed until I can do those things.
Well, yeah, it's like, do physical therapy on it, ice it, try out braces, maybe go get, a surgeon to look at it if it's too rough, maybe think about like stem cells. I've actually been thinking about that, because like Joe Rogan always talks about how like his shoulders and his wrists and his elbows and his knees, how like spot treatment of stem cell can be really helpful for stuff like that. And, whatever. But all I'm saying is like,
oh, you got a spinal cord injury? You ever tried stem cells?
That's another one of those. That's another one of those things that's so.
Everyone says that.
Not only that, but it's like, that's so mainstream, and most people in the community, new people, are so curious about it. They're like, and then they get stuck in Pascal's wager, which is like, what if I don't do it? What happens if I don't do it?
And it did work. Yeah,
exactly. They get stuck in Pascal's wager, but almost everyone that I know that has tried stem cells, that's honest.
Even my dad did stem cells, and it didn't end up really working for him, and he ended up having to do a bunch of surgery. So, like, I think I believe in stem cells, but it's not a cure-all. It's not going to, like, fix your broken spinal cord. It might, like, help with, like, some damaged things, and I'm sure it works. And there's also, I'm sure, like, lots of maybe better ways of stem cells, and then there's other ways of stem cells that are, like, there's some that, like, you just take it and it like goes throughout your whole body and it's supposed to like repair things, and then there's some that's like spot treatment.
The infusions.
There's even stem cell pills you can take.
Oh, that sounds
which
stupid.
Is weird. Like when I was at Tomorrowland, I met some doctor who like sold stem cells pills, and he like gave me one. But anyways, it was very interesting. But the
stem cell pills at Tomorrowland.
And then I just get like a giant boner,
and all of a sudden your pupils are dilated this big.
Yeah, and I'm like,
you think
these stem cells are really working, bro.
You think you're a frog? You start hopping around, jumping in the one of the
dude. My third eye has been opened, and my taint has been. I've been sunning my taint,
sunning it in the sun. Oh god.
Okay, I wanted to go back to this hospital thing.
Yeah.
Because never, heaven forbid, we go wholesome. We got to take it back to the immature level. So there was a hospital.
The naming of the hospitals.
Yeah. So in Indianapolis, which is such a weird name for a city, by the way.
Is it Annapolis or Indianapolis?
Annapolis is in Maryland. Indianapolis is in India. I'm just kidding. It's in Illinois, I think, isn't it? Indianapolis?
No,
I don't know.
but I didn't
No,
know
but
how
Annapolis is in Maryland.
No, I guess what I mean is like people from Toronto call it Toronto. People from Atlanta call it Atlanta. Like is Indianapolis like Annapolis? Like I don't know.
No, Annapolis is another place.
Oh, okay.
Indianapolis. But anyways, there was a there was a sign on the top of this hospital, and it was endowed by Jewish philanthropists in 2011, and their names were Sidney and Lois Eskenazi. And so the hospital was I
know where this is going.
On the top of the hospital, it just says Sidney and Lois Eskenazi Hospital. And because of the way that signs work, sometimes certain letters go out. And so at the
it says Nazi Hospital.
So these Jewish people that funded this entire hospital, it now says Nazi Hospital in the letters.
Isn't that ironic?
And this tweet says the lights on my in the hospital in my hometown have gone out in a majorly unfortunate way. So it was literally named after a Jewish couple after they donated $40 million. And the hospital is named after them. And then because of a power outage, it ended up saying Nazi Hospital. That is funny, but also so bad.
So unfortunate.
Yeah.
So unfortunate. What is maybe you know more about this. So interesting segue, but also not interesting because it's very simple. The hospital that got built in Wuhan. Didn't you say there was a hospital that got built in like 6 days?
Yeah, so I watched this video actually.
Was it a time lapse?
No. Well, they did have a live stream. You could watch it. Like 80 million people were watched it over the course of the whole thing or something crazy.
Cool, there's like a time lapse.
There is. There is a time lapse because they had a live stream of the whole thing. But
my thought is this: like, you don't have time for inspections or regulations or anything, and it was just like all hands on deck, red alert, build this thing, all things go.
So I watched this video by this page called Wendover Productions. They make really good educational videos on YouTube, and they also are part of this other. It's like Curiosity Stream. It's like a subscription service that you
get a lot of ads for that. It's like, are you watching videos about cats? Why don't you learn something more interesting about cats on Curiosity Stream?
Yeah, and you pay like a monthly fee for subscription or whatever. And so he does free videos on YouTube, and then also does extra videos that get put on Curiosity Stream. But anyways, Wendover Productions, go check out that video. But it talks about how they built this hospital in Wuhan in 10 days. And basically, the way that they did it was they actually did something similar with SARS back in the day, but they waited a really long time. They waited I think it was a few months until it was announced that it was an epidemic or whatever that they finally were building. Because what's been happening is in Wuhan, they're only letting people in the hospital that are severe cases or whatever. So people that are mild cases are literally getting turned away, and then they're going back home and trying to recover at home, thereby infecting more people. And if you can isolate these people in the hospital, obviously, number one, they're under care so that they can hopefully get better. But number two, they're quarantined in a way so that they're not going to be infecting anyone else. And actually, they were talking about stats, I think, with SARS and stuff back in the day. They were talking about how when they built these new hospitals, they had a very, very low rate of the actual staff of the hospital getting infected because of the precautions that they put in place so that the actual doctors and nurses in the hospitals don't get infected. Because if they do it the right way.
That would be so terrifying to be a doctor or a nurse tending to a pandemic,
literally
knowing that more than likely you're probably going to get hit.
Yeah, no, that's scary, dude. That's scary as fuck.
It's don't go to work today, you know?
Yeah, so the way that they did this was they basically found, a flat area that was outside of, the city or whatever, and they spent most of the time was they were having to clear land and make a foundation, clearing trees and all that. But basically they have all these prefab houses, almost kind of like IKEA furniture, where they build.
They've got 3D printed buildings. Yeah,
it's not even 3D printed necessarily. It was just they've like imagine IKEA, they go to their parts bin and they say, okay, we're already producing this 2x4 plank. We can use that for this piece of furniture, this piece of furniture, this piece of furniture, and this piece of furniture. So they're not like making a specific type of item for each new piece of furniture. They're able to go to their parts bin, kind of like Legos, and say like, okay, we've got
Auto
these
manufacturers
screws.
do
Exactly,
that too,
exactly. And auto manufacturers do that too. You know, you'll see a really high end car, and they've got they share the same like door latches with like the low end like Ford Focus or something. Like the Ford GT like might have the same like, you know, windshield wiper stock as like
windshield wiper button or something.
Yeah, you know, and like people like Doug DeMuro like to point that out that it's a cheap route, but it's the way that they can efficiently make more cars and make them cheaper and better and all that. So it's kind of interesting. But anyway, so what they did was
because they have a lot of those. They got a lot of parts in the parts bin from all the mega cities that they've built that are mostly inhabited. But
yeah, and the company that they contracted to make the hospital is the largest building contractor in the world, and it's state run. So it's basically China, like the government basically like runs this company that makes all of these buildings. So it's not like there's a private contractor building the buildings and then they're having to go through regulators. It's like the regulators are so intertwined into the business.
So they can just say, go.
They can literally just be like, go. And there was thousands of people on this job, but basically what they did is almost kind of like, you know, when you see like a trailer with a house rolling down the street, like they basically had like prefab houses and buildings that they could just bring walls and then like install them together and, you know, all these things. So they were able to get the building up very, very quickly once they had a foundation.
Like 6 days after the foundation was done?
After the foundation was done, the foundation took like most of the 10 days. I think the foundation took like 6 of the days or something. And then like the building was up in like a couple of days. Like it was it's crazy. And
that blows my mind.
And the first patients were in the building like 10 days after they like broke ground or whatever. Like it's absolutely nuts. But it's amazing, and they're actually building a couple more. So it's not like they're just building one hospital.
Damn industrious, dude.
It's crazy, and that's what happens when the government is run by engineers instead of lawyers, dude. Because that's what really, really crushes innovation is when you get stifled in all the litigation.
Yeah.
When you've got engineers that are problem solvers that are running shit. They know how to like go into a situation and maneuver their way in and figure it out. That's why, it's
funny how that you mentioned, you said lawyers, not engineers, not lawyers, because if you look at the U.S., almost every congressional person or president or people that are running for office anywhere have law degrees.
Exactly.
And it's like, I wonder. And if they don't have a law degree like Trump, they've got shit tons of lawyers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, around
and China is their main fundamentals are math, science, and engineering and all like the STEM focus, and a lot of Asian countries are very focused on that, and that's why they're innovating and crushing the competition. But in the U.S., we're so focused on like litigation and blah 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 and equality and like all these things that it stifles innovation in a lot of ways, but also gives us a lot of the freedoms that we enjoy.
Regulation stifles innovation a lot.
Yeah, for sure. But it's really fascinating because
but also don't forget, like, China is brutally dictators, and
it's socialist. It's communist.
Not socialist, communist. Yeah, it's communist. It's brutal. They do not care about human rights violations. You know, like they can do whatever they want to the people whenever they want to the people. So it's very scary. But it's like also on the flip side of that, it's like no better place for a plague to break out than like a psycho ass country where they're like close down all the borders, all the flights, quarantine cities, arrest people and put them in quarantine jails, and like you know all this crazy shit that China's up to.
Yeah, but also they're not to the point where, like, for example, in like typical communism, you think like, or in like and not even communism, but like socialism too, like everyone makes equal pay and stuff like that.
It's the kind of communism and socialism that Jordan Peterson warns about.
Yeah, it is, and it's very scary. Watch Black Mirror. You'll see all kinds of scary shit about the government overstepping their bounds on human rights and all that kind of stuff. It is scary, but I think the vast majority of Chinese people, they're not severely unhappy. I think they'd probably look to like a North Korea and be like, well, at least we're not them. You know, like there's always a bright
true.
side of things. And, you know, there's, I think the Chinese government tends to look at people as like a resource that is to be, it's almost like an infinite resource, right? Like they don't care if something harms people because for the greater good of mankind or the greater good of the country, they're going to need to sacrifice some people or
the community.
Yeah, exactly. For, you know, because it's like that, you know, the conundrum of like self-driving cars. If if you're able to save a kid, but like hit an old lady or something, they're kind of just like, no, we should kill the old people, you know, or like they think very logically about certain things rather than coming at it with empathy. And they're not thinking, oh, what if I was that person? I wouldn't want to die.
It's for the greater good or something like that.
Yeah, and I think Russia tends to think like that, and they're willing to make sacrifices. Honestly. Yeah, I was listening to a podcast with Lex Friedman. He's an AI expert from Russia, and he was born in Russia, and he was talking about that. Like, there's like not this. The sense of community is not like a friendly sense of community. It's more like you got to do whatever it takes for everybody. But if that means like falling on your sword, like so be it, you know, like sacrifice and things like that. Whereas in America, it's more like me, but also you, like everyone wants to have equal rights and stuff, but no one wants to give up their own.
What's interesting about the US is like when it comes to, let's say, a big tragic event, everyone is going to do everything in their power to go help the people in that event. Americans want to be heroes.
Like 9/11?
Yeah, like 9/11 or Katrina or like Houston floods or, you know, any like school shootings, like all this stuff. Like people want to be heroes.
Yeah.
But no one wants to like prevent problems.
Yeah.
It's like
it's very Western thinking.
Yeah, no one cares about preventing issues. It's like
treating the symptoms rather than the root cause.
Yeah, they want to be a hero. They'll go out of their way to feel like a hero and, you know, to bring people together. And it's like, America strong, you know, and it's like, we're going to get
Boston strong.
It's like, yeah, it's like, we're going to
Vegas strong.
Everything's strong.
Everything's strong.
It's like, we're going to get through this together and we're going to help everybody out. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, what about all the vets, you know, that like 126,000 of them commit suicide every year, but every year military deaths are only like 5,000. So instead of like, how about we try to, you know, prevent, you know, all these military vets from killing themselves? And people are like, nah, that doesn't sound very heroic.
It's literally just like in The Dark Knight, like, you know, the Joker's talking to Harvey Two-Face, and he's in the hospital, and he's like, he says, you know, a whole car of soldiers blows up and no one bats an eye, but one little old mare gets killed and everyone loses their minds, because it's like that's not supposed to happen, but the tank full of soldiers dying is supposed to happen. It's almost kind of like these, you know, you knew what you signed up for when you signed up for the military. You know what you signed up for. You knew you could get PTSD, so like, you know, that's on you or whatever.
So kind of to parallel that exact same thing, the same week that the Kobe helicopter crashed, a military helicopter crashed with 30 people on board, and like no one even said anything.
Yeah, because exactly, like you don't expect a civilian to like die in that regard. And also like the president takes helicopter rides like every day, and you know, like that's kind of sketchy to think about. Like, holy shit, if Kobe, like one of the richest people.
Well, I mean, that's why we've got vice presidents, which are also terrifying.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's, well, I mean, you have the vice president because you got to have the chain of command. But yeah, also like when I was watching videos on Air Force One the other day for like whatever reason, but when the helicopter takes off to take them to the actual air base where the Air Force One will take off, they fly with 5 other helicopters that all switch positions at all times, so that no one knows where the package is. Like no one knows which helicopter has the president in it.
That's why president and vice president never fly together.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I was also wanting to bring up.
Let's talk more China. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up the movie Parasite, because we were also talking about Joker and Parasite winning, you know, the Oscars, sweeping the Oscars. The Joker film. You said it was a really good movie, but you didn't want to watch it again. Wasn't that your mindset?
Was a movie that
it hit too close to home.
It made me very uncomfortable. There was parts of that movie that my skin was crawling and I wanted to leave the theater. If I wasn't in the theater, I would have turned it off. Like it set a lot of like triggers off in me, not from any type of like violent murder thing, but a lot of the like, you know, picked on and made fun of and neglected and no one caring about you and, you know, medical getting cut, and just like the movie was just,
it was real
dark. It was a very, very dark movie that touched on a lot of very dark subjects. And I don't just mean like dark emotionally, like even visually, like it was a very dim, dark movie. And, you know, I remember one time I was with Jalila and I was like squirming in my seat and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I go, "No." And she goes, "Do you want to leave?" I said, "No." She goes, "Are you sure?" I go, "Yes. I don't like this." And I just kept watching. But it was a movie I'll never watch again, because it made me that uncomfortable. It was a good movie, but it like made me crawl. Like my skin was crawling. It put me in that, like, it reminded me very much of like my deepest, darkest depression.
Yeah.
Where I just felt like no one or no thing like cared about me. I had no forward thinking. I was kicked off to the wayside. I didn't feel understood. Like there was a lot about the Joker that like I really related to, like in a very scary and terrifying way.
Yeah.
And the Joker performed really well. It was the #1 grossing movie that DC put out ever, I think. And it was an R-rated movie too, and an R-rated superhero movie.
It did really, really well.
Or an origin movie. And, you know, a lot of people were, you know, hoping that was going to get Best Picture. And
yeah, well, it's interesting. My friend Wes, who runs a podcast called The Pestle, where they dissect movies.
Pestle, that's an interesting name.
Yeah, The Pestle. Or is it Pestle? It's Pestle, not Pestle, right? It's pestle. Like, you know, like the mortar and pestle, like, you know, you're grinding things up. Like it's like a pestle is a thing that you use to grind up things. Like, for example, like a medicine man, they'd have like a little bowl, a mortar and pestle. It's like this little device that you'd use to like grind ingredients
I didn't know what a pestle was.
Well, now you know. Yeah, and this is actually their podcast artwork. It looks like a little bowl. Like a lot of times it's like the iconography for like a pharmacy or something.
Yeah.
You'd like grind up pills or something, like, I don't know, or to put them in. You'd grind up the ingredients to like put them in a pill press or something like that.
Bro, that's pharmacies from like the 1800s.
I know, but that's the iconography still. That dude, the Save logo on computers is a floppy disk.
Floppy disk, yeah.
Like it's just pervasive. It's just the imagery that we all associate with it.
Little quick side note. A friend of mine, either I read this on the internet or I think I probably read it on the internet. Some guy had a floppy disk and he showed it to his kid, and his kid was like, "Dad, you 3D printed the Save icon?" It's like, no, this is an actual real thing that existed.
That's one of those things where it's like one of those internet things of things that didn't happen but could have. Like, yeah. I feel like someone that's plausible. That's a very plausible story.
There's so many
of like, that's a thing that happened, but it's also a thing that easily could have, you just thought of it and thought of a clever tweet and you're like, that'd be funny if that's
well, there's so many things that like match with the age. It's like you say like, tape this for me, but it's like record it.
You don't realize why it's taped because it's literally used to be
or
on
even
tape.
like hand motions. Like I saw a young person
roll down your window.
Yeah, roll down your window. I saw they said, you know how like, maybe you and I, it's like, show me if we were talking and you're gonna say call me, but use a hand motion to say call me. Okay,
like that. You
do it like this. I saw someone do it like this. Because it represents a flat phone.
Yeah, I guess.
They're like, call me.
Yeah,
instead of it, because like they never experienced one of those kind of phones.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, the interesting thing about the pestle was Wes was talking about it, and he said like he avoided watching it for a while because he was like feeling like he might be like about to go into like kind of a little bit of depression because he deals with depression, and he was like avoiding it for a while until he felt like he was at a good enough place to watch it. And he said even after watching it, it kind of like brought him down a couple pegs and like brought him down a little bit. And
I remember, friend in the building, you know him, he deals with a lot of depression and mental health stuff. And I remember telling him, he's like, I'm going to go see the Joker. And I was like, if you're not in a good place, don't go see it. And he was like, really? I was like, no, dead ass, bro. I was like, I think you're fine. I was like, but like if I was, I'd be careful. I was like, if I was in a bad place, this would make it so much worse. And he went to see it, and I asked him, and he's like, yeah, dude, if I would have seen that a couple of years ago, that would have been it for me.
Wow.
He's like, that movie would have spiraled me so hard.
Yeah.
because it's so in touch.
It really is. Like, it hits on a lot of things that even if you don't struggle with those things, you empathize with it and you realize, like,
you feel it.
Shit.
You really feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, really good cinema.
It is. It's amazing cinema because it makes you feel something rather than just like watching it. Like you feel, you really do feel for the characters and you understand like how broken the system is and everything.
That's what good movies are.
Totally.
Like, I'm not a big fan of like a lot of the MCU movies because it's just like too much action and I don't get a lot of feelings out of it. I'm like, oh, neat, another fight scene. You know, like I'm like, cool. You know, oh, some witty banter. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, but when it comes to this or like Dark Knight,
it's not a movie you can like throw on in the background to like have like it's just something going on. There's movies like that that are just a hang that you can just play and watch casually. These types of movies are not that.
You got to sit down and pay attention to.
Yeah.
And
that's the types of movies that movie theaters still exist for. You know, going to the theater and experiencing that in a closed environment. I think about it like doing yoga at your house versus doing yoga in a yoga class. It's going to be way better in the yoga class because there's other people around. You can't leave. It's like a weird thing. There's no breaks. Like,
it's an environment.
It's an environment that creates you are sitting down to enjoy this specific thing. Whereas if you're sitting down at your house and you're not very intentional about it, you're going to pause it to go take a break or your phone rings and you look at it. Whereas when you're in the theater, you are like, oh, I'm not going to, even though my phone vibrated, I'm not taking it out because then it's going to shine the light. Like there's just all these things that movie theaters still need to exist for. The cinema.
Yeah.
The cinema.
And I think sometimes that type of video can be to its own detriment sometimes. Like I think you and I have talked a lot about like Dan Mace. Like his videos are so fucking good, but you can't watch them passively. Like you have to sit down to enjoy them and focus and enjoy them because they're just so good. I think about AJ, you'll get this, like Mr. Robot, you can't watch passively. Like you have to pay attention and closely to what is happening.
I can't tell you how many times I had to go back and just like rewatch scenes.
Seriously, because at the end of the scene you're like, what just happened? Wait. What did they even?
Like that was his dad, or like you're like wait, was that his real dad? Yeah.
It's like what? And then you got to like go back and pay attention to it. And it's like I've been sitting on season 4 for like it's 2 months now, 3 months now. Like even in the time when I was laid up in the hospital, what I could have watched all of season 4.
It wasn't a movie that you were mentally ready to like try to.
It wasn't a move. I was just trying to just
chill,
have like snacks and popcorn of entertainment. I just didn't want to like invest in anything because you
needed Quibi.
I was just trying. No, I was just trying
to. You needed some little quick bites.
Shut up.
You needed some snacks.
Shut
up.
You need
a little Quibi.
Shut the fuck up. I was just trying to turn my brain off. Like this. That's one of the things that I've learned how helps me not go negative is just turn my brain off.
Yeah. I want to get into this little guy that was reviewing the Parasite movie because it's pretty funny.
Well, I don't know anything about Parasite. And
neither does this guy, so I think it's perfect. This guy hasn't seen Parasite.
So I've seen Joker. I liked Joker, but Parasite. What did Parasite win?
Parasite won. So Bong Joon-ho won Best Director.
I think they won Best Writing. I'll fact check it. They won Best Writing. They won Best Foreign Film, Best Director, and Best Picture.
Yeah.
And a couple other.
They swept the big ones.
They swept the big, kind of like Billy when she won all the top 4.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's a film about what?
Like, I'll get into it in a second. I want to play this first because this guy also doesn't know what it's about, and it's really funny to hear his ignorance, and then we'll explain it.
Okay, if this volume has to,
So I'm starting this video at minute 150. By the way, AJ, if you want to show this on screen later, but this is a guy that is so his name on YouTube is Robert Storms, and he has like 23,000 subscribers, and he does like movie reviews and things like that. And he's the title of this video is called "Oscars Go Full Woke, Parasite Wins Best Picture," and he's very frustrated. So let's play this.
Make its own little category, which I'm okay with, to be honest with you. So why do we have Best Foreign Film, yet these movies are then qualified to enter Best Picture? True, we can sit there and say, well, just because it's foreign doesn't mean it's the best picture. That's fine.
And this guy
But
looks
out of everybody
exactly
in the
how
United
you think he
States of
looks.
Motherfucking America, how many people actually fucking seen Parasite? Can someone please raise your goddamn hand and tell me, for the love of Christ, how many fucking people in the United States of motherfucking America saw Parasite? Okay? I don't know what Parasite is. I don't give a shit about Parasite. It's fine. It won Best Foreign Film. You know why? Because it's a goddamn foreign film. Joker, and look, I don't care if Joker didn't win. I wanted to win, but it could have been Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Marriage Story, 1917, Ford v Ferrari, Little Wing. I don't give a shit. But fucking Parasite, which won Best Foreign Film, Best Director, Best Picture. I'm sorry, if you won Best Foreign Film, you should automatically be invalid to even be qualified to win Best Picture. You should. And it pisses me off because Joker, let's talk about Joker. Okay, look at United States of America right now.
He hadn't even seen Parasite.
What is more important to our culture than the Joker? About a movie that talks about mental illness not being taken seriously. About how people in high places look down and frown upon the poor, the poverty, and people with mental illness. And how
That's literally what Parasite is about.
That's why I didn't know. Okay.
People in high places looking down on people that are in poverty. That is literally Parasite. And I think Parasite does a better job than Joker, honestly,
Well,
of driving that point home.
Is Parasite, it's a Chinese movie or Korean
It's
movie?
Korean, South Korean.
Okay.
I'll kind of explain the synopsis, and I won't spoil Act 2 because Act 1 and Act 2 are very different. So the setup of the movie, that is not very much spoilers. You'll get the gist from the trailer, is that there is a very poor family that ends up they're very, very much struggling. They live in a semi-basement. They are very, very poor. They stink. They smell. The family's folding pizza boxes to make money at the beginning of the movie. And basically the son, so it's a family of four, a son, a daughter, and two parents. And the son gets an opportunity to work as an English tutor for this very wealthy family. And because his entire family needs jobs, he basically kind of cons this rich family into hiring the rest of his family for other positions within the household.
A con or a convince?
A con, because he doesn't let them know that they're his family.
Oh, okay.
So this rich family, he doesn't realize that they're all related. And then it's so fun. It's a very fun movie. It's super awesome. It's funny. It's very funny. It's got so many like twists and turns, and there's like this one sequence that is just like perfect.
It's the pacing of it.
The pacing, the cinematography, the editing, like everything is just on fucking point. And then Act 2 happens, and there's a giant twist, and the whole movie takes a turn that you're just like, what the fuck? Like I've talked about like when you take psychedelics.
It goes real dark.
It goes dark, and it also goes like almost a little bit horror and very anxiety inducing and very, you just got to watch it. It's amazing. The other thing is, a lot of people, I think, they're like, I got to read subtitles. You think about the subtitles for, I'd say maybe the first 10, 15 minutes. And then as you go on, you kind of tend to forget about them. And I actually really enjoyed, I think I would lose some of the acting if it was dubbed, like if I was watching a dubbed version, like English.
Subtitles also force you to not be on Instagram while you're watching.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
It's very,
I fall into that trap all the time where I'm like, gonna watch a movie, and before I know it, I'm like, beep-a-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, you know, and then I'm just listening to what's going on, not actually watching.
Yeah, and it's, man, honestly, like ever since me and AJ watched it together a couple nights ago, and ever since we watched it, like it's been rattling around in my brain. Like, it's so good, and it's not jarring where Joker really makes you feel afterwards. Like I could see you kind of like going into like a depression kind of.
Did you ever see Midsummer?
I did.
Is it the equivalent of that?
Midsummer is more.
But when I mean equivalent, I mean like it's like happy and joyful in the beginning, and then towards the end it gets real dark and it makes you super uncomfortable.
So let's take Joker for example.
Okay.
Joker.
Let's talk about Joker.
Let's talk about Joker.
Can we talk about Joker?
So Joker, it's pretty clear what the message is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You watch Parasite, and you have to kind of think about the word parasite and think of like
There's so many double
this
meanings.
family
with it.
is leeching on to this poor family is leeching onto this rich family, but also this rich family is depending on this poor family.
Like the upper class, the 1% also depends fully on the 99% living like a shitty life or whatever for them to live like the most luxury life they could.
That's Dubai. Like,
yeah,
all the poor people drive in an hour and a half to work for all the rich people and then leave again. And it's like, what do they call that in the animal kingdom when you're like a
hierarchy?
You're like a whale shark, and then there's that little baby fish that like lives on
It's a symbiotic relationship.
Thank you.
But it's a form of parasitism. Like there's
it's parasitic. It's parasitic.
Exactly. And dude, there's so many good parallels of the word parasite. It's like a perfect name for the movie. And it has nothing to do with like actual parasites or anything. Like it's honestly like I don't really even want to talk about like the plot much more because I really want people to go see it because I went into it not even knowing what I told you guys. Like I went into it 100% blind. Like me and AJ were like, oh, one best picture and one all these other things. Like, let's watch it. And that's exactly how this guy in this video
sometimes
felt because he hadn't even seen it.
And sometimes like Academy Award movies that win these big awards are kind of trash. Like there's been times where
in the past few years they've gotten some flack.
It's like best picture goes to blah blah, and I'm like, okay, that must be great. And then you go to watch it, and you're like, what is this horse shit?
Well, I think a lot of times the Academy is really looking at things that the layperson is not looking at. Like for example, what was that one movie like Birdman? Was it Birdman? The one that was like everything was like one continuous shot.
Birdman, yeah. Birdman.
Yeah, and like that, like to the average person, they're like, yeah, that's cool or whatever. But like maybe it wasn't as entertaining. But to like a person that really appreciates good cinema or something, they see that and they're like, oh my god, that was brilliant! Like how they transitioned that, or like things like that. That the regular person is like. That's like a Marvel goer or something is like, it wasn't that good. Not enough explosions. It's like you gotta. I don't know. The Academy is looking at other things. They're looking at the art of cinema versus just like how much money did it make and is it entertaining and stuff like that. Like I think they're looking at a lot of different factors. But to be fair, Parasite is. I'm not even just saying this. Like me and AJ were talking about this. It's one of the best movies that I've ever seen, and I don't think I can say like definitively like, oh, it's my favorite movie. Because I've only seen it once, and there's a lot of movies that I probably would enjoy watching more because I maybe have like nostalgic, affection for, or like I've always said that The Dark Knight is my favorite movie because I just have so much. There's just so much good about it, and Parasite honestly hits a lot of those same points for me. Like it's really good, and I think over the years it'll age really well, and it's just an awesome movie. Like it was really, 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 really well done. And I think watching it a few more times, like you can always get more out of it. Like it's not like one of those one-time watches and you're like, okay.
Those are my favorite kind of movies. Like Inception, for example.
Yes.
Like when Inception was over, I was like, shit, now I gotta watch it again. I'm like, what the hell? Which, by the way, if you haven't seen Inception and you're on Netflix, it's currently on Netflix right now, so go watch it.
You know what Parasite also gave me a little bit of vibes of, even though it doesn't have the technological parallels, is Ex Machina.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Because Ex Machina takes place in that one house.
3 actors, 1 house. That's it.
That's one of the best movies. I rewatched that the other day. That's a really good movie.
3 actors, 1 location, and it's a mind fuck of a movie.
That's also in my top 10 probably.
And it's terrifying. If like the end scene, you're like, oh fuck.
Doesn't Parasite kind of give you some of the vibes of Ex Machina as far as the house goes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because the other crazy thing is the house in Ex Machina is almost a character of its own. Same thing in Parasite.
I saw a movie.
Parasite, the house that the rich people live in is very much a character of its own. And it's the craziest part is that it's entirely a set. Like I was very convinced that this was just like a really sick house that they found to film in. It's 100% built by Bong Joon-ho and his creation team, they designed this house for the movie. It's not a house that anyone lives in.
I just recently saw a movie called Knives Out, and
I heard that was really
Very
good.
good one too.
so good. But the house, AJ, it's its own character. Like the house plays a huge part in the storytelling, because it has, as things get revealed about the character, things get revealed about the house, and it's pretty freaking clever because you're like,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
Yeah,
you know?
I'd say Parasite is very similar in that regard, and it's it's amazing, and it's a the reason why this guy in this video that we were showing is so pissed is because he is saying that if it's a foreign film, it should be for foreign films only, and this is the Academy, and this is the awards for the United States and all this kind of stuff. But the thing is like,
So his argument is if it was best foreign film, it shouldn't be allowed to also win
best
overall.
But that's so dumb. It's like that's like in the Grammys saying like best pop album can't also be is not
album of
eligible
the
for
year.
album of the year. It's like, no, duh, that's the point. It's like you get the best of these categories: best foreign film, best animated film, best this film. And then all of those can still be nominated for best picture
Yeah,
because
they
that's
can-
like the best of the
Animated
best.
movies
They
can still win
They
Best
compete.
Picture.
Yeah.
And don't they do that in like bodybuilding? Like there's
Yeah.
like the best in physique and the best and then there's best overall where it's like all the finalists of the best of the categories face each other.
Yeah, so each category has subcategories. So there's
Yeah.
like physique, there's classic, there's 212, there's open bodybuilding, and then, the winners of each division face off, and then that is the overall winner. So
Yeah, exactly.
you basically have to win twice. So it's like you can get first place in your division, but then you can get like last overall, or you can
Yeah.
get first in your division and first overall.
And if Parasite was in the running for best picture but didn't win best foreign film, that's stupid. Like if they're, you know what I mean? Like if they're actually putting in the running for best picture of the year, which honestly, I didn't see all the other entries in the best picture category, but AJ, I'm assuming you've watched a decent amount of them. Do you agree that Parasite should win?
So I went in with it thinking like, I really like Joker. I saw it like 3 times.
Yeah, I love Joker too.
I think after I saw that one, I was like, that one definitely should win because Joaquin.
Did you see
Phoenix-
1917?
I saw 1917.
How was it?
1917 probably had the best cinematography I've ever seen.
I saw behind the scenes
Roger Deakins.
where
is the shit.
they
Did that one continuous shot that was like crazy?
no, it had to do with the fact that like they could only shoot when it was cloudy. So sometimes they would just be on set all day and not be able to do a single shot. They would just sit around all day and just hope that it got cloudy.
Yeah.
some of the dark like nighttime scenes were actually shot in like the morning time
Mm-hmm.
because like they still have that light. Anyways, so
Dawn and
after-
evening, you can
Yeah.
you can
Yeah,
trick
yeah.
you can trick a camera.
You can color correct it to a way to make it look like it's dark. But anyways, after I'm always very optimistic about the Academy. So like I'll give it a chance. So once I saw that one, I mean, winning best foreign film and seeing that it's like everywhere, like being advertised everywhere, it's just like, all right, this has got to be a good movie. And then seeing it win best foreign film, then best writing,
Mhm.
then best director, I was like, okay, this has got to be a good movie. So the next day when saw it, and I was like, oh yeah.
Do you think
I
that
totally agree.
swayed your perception of it because it won all the awards?
In what way?
Like the fact that you watched it after the Oscars or after
It's
the
like
Oscars
like-
had already announced that they won, is that swaying your opinion? I personally haven't seen haven't seen a lot of the other nominations, and I still think like even for example like Ex Machina is one of my favorite movies, and I went into it and that didn't even do that well in the box office or anything.
No,
I don't
guess
think
what
it's-
I mean is like you go to a restaurant
I
and
think
it's
it
like
sways it-
award-winning mac and cheese, best in the U.S., and then you eat it and you're like, this is the best mac and cheese I've ever had.
I think,
But if you didn't know it was award-winning, would it have been the best
it
mac and
stands
cheese?
alone, dude. I think I would still say
I would
even
still have the same
independent.
opinion.
I think even independent of knowing that it won best picture, best foreign film, anything, if I would just to watch that on its own, I would have come away going, holy shit, that's one of the best movies I've ever seen. Like,
Okay.
honestly, it's amazing.
Well, shit,
And
now I gotta watch it.
I think everyone should go watch it. It's awesome. And the guy in this video that we were kind of talking about before, I think he's so pissed because he sees this as Hollywood wanting to lift this up as like, for example, oh, we have the first black president, like, and only voting him in because he's black, or like people voting for Hillary only because she's a woman and they just want a woman president.
Not
and
because she's the most qualified.
Exactly. And I think that he was saying is first of all, is the first South Korean film to ever be up for Best Director or even Best Picture. I think it was even the first South Korean film to win Best Foreign Film.
What's interesting is that Korean culture and American culture are very closely related.
There's a lot of parallels.
There's a lot of parallels. There's a lot of similarities.
South Korea is really cool.
And I'm not surprised that it did well. You know.
Yeah, and it was, I think this guy was just so pissed because he's like, how many people in America saw Parasite? And he was just very, very like, Joker had so much impact on society and had everyone talking and it made people uncomfortable and it made you feel and blah, 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 blah. And I would say Parasite does those things in a maybe even more effective way because it doesn't just make you like depressed. It gives you empathy from both sides and it makes you feel so much in the movie. And it's also just a very amazing original story. Whereas like Joker, you know, it was a very original take on the Joker and the character as a whole. There was a lot of liberties that they took with the character that aren't the typical Joker that I think people really enjoyed and loved. But I still do think that there was like that element of things that they were having to do to tie things in. Like, you know, when he like meets like young Bruce Wayne and stuff, kind of gimmicky because you're like, oh, it's young Bruce Wayne. Like Parasite doesn't need any of that because it like stands alone. You know what I mean? And I think Joker kind of like
you're right. There was a couple like it's like when Bruce Wayne's parents got killed and you know Joker was there. It's like
Joker benefits from Heath Ledger's Joker. It also benefits from all the other Jokers, and I think you appreciate Joker as a film more than you would just as like seeing Joker all by itself, not knowing Batman, not knowing Joker.
It helped me appreciate Heath Ledger's Joker more.
Yes.
It helped me understand his mental state because after this version of the Joker goes
Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
Joaquin Phoenix then goes to Arkham for 20 years. And then when he gets out is when Batman is ruling the city. You know, so it's like you understand his mind state and why he's so fucked up.
Yeah,
like you
empathize with him.
Yeah, and you also understand why he's like, I'm not about the money, I'm about causing chaos, you know?
Exactly.
That's what he talks about in The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then you hear Alfred, some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, it's like, he's like,
one of the best lines.
Yeah, it's like, because he's talking about the ruby, the big jewels that
there was a robber or something. He calls him something.
There was a thief.
There was a thief. There was a robber and
a crook.
Yeah, a crook or something. He calls him something. He's like, they burned down the whole jungle, anyways, I think Joker is a really good movie. I think it deserves all the praise and all the recognition. Joaquin Phoenix is genius in that movie. Who's the director? Todd Phillips?
Todd Phillips.
Yeah, Todd Phillips was genius. Like, that whole movie, Joker, is amazing. And I still do think that Parasite is a little bit even more original, a little bit more effective. It's better. And I do think that it deserved Picture of the Year, and it was amazing.
What was the title of that video again? Something about woke. Hollywood goes woke.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say about the wokeness is I think it says Oscars goes full woke, Parasite wins Best Picture, and I think he was just thinking, oh, the Academy just wants to like elevate these South Korean people because they want to show how woke they are of like nominating this like kind of abstract, obscure foreign film as like the coolest thing. And he's like, who in the United States of fucking America has seen Parasite?
Well, what I think is interesting is like he talks about woke culture, but then looks like the biggest snowflake of all. He's like, oh, I've never even seen it.
Yeah,
and it's like the Joker talks about all these things, and then he lists out all the things.
And
that
the
Parasite
funny thing is, he goes, we got all these American films that should have won. 4 vs. 4, Joker, 1917. It's like 1917 was a British film. You dunce. Like it wasn't even like, you know, he's just viewing Western and English speaking as American, and because South Korean and the movie's not in English, therefore it like invalidates being a really good movie in America, and that's just simply not true because. Just because Hollywood has dominated music and American culture has like dominated music and movies and really culture as a whole across the whole world for so many years does not mean that there can be shifts, and that does not mean that there are valid and very, very good concepts and movies and ideas and entertainment coming from other places. And that's where I think that he's just very like protective. And obviously this dude self-identifies with Joker a lot. And
He
like,
looks-
if
he looks
you're
like
just
he
listening
would.
to audio, it's this very large man. He has a halo tattoo behind his ear.
I didn't see that part.
The backdrop,
It's like this halo ring.
it's the you know the O in Halo,
yeah.
like the script of it's got the little O with the little dot. Yeah, and he's got like ear piercings. He's wearing like a dorky little like hat.
Fedora looking.
It's not even a
thing.
fedora. It's like a Newsies hat.
A
you
golf
know,
hat.
Yeah,
Big-
like a little
big-
golf hat.
A beard.
He's got a beard. He's very overweight. He's got a large shirt with like tribal print on it.
No,
and
no,
stuff.
it looks like Ed Hardy.
Kinda, yeah. And like,
God, remember Ed Hardy?
and he's got like chains, and behind him, by the way, he's got all these like comic book ladies, like very like misogynistic, like
Oh, God.
portrayals of women and stuff. So he's obviously like a comic book dork and all that stuff. So of course he, you know, and he got a lot of shit for it. At the beginning of the video, it's very funny. He urges everyone to like the video because he thinks that his opinion is very valid, and he thinks that everyone should
He's
go
got
like it.
what 23,000 subs and how many? That's not a lot of subs.
He has 49,000 downvotes on this video. And he has 23,000 subs.
How many views does he have?
166K. So at the beginning of the video, he's like, everyone needs to like this video because this idea needs to get out there.
That is
And everyone is like,
1/3 of down.
imagine thinking that your idea was correct. Like, I've never felt like so embarrassed for someone. Like, he's just, the whole conversation is just so cringy because like, if you would have actually given Parasite a chance, I think you would have changed your tune, but you're obviously being so blatantly like borderline racist that you can't possibly imagine a non-English speaking director and movie winning. You need to sun your perineum a little bit. You need to open up your chakras. You need to get a little bit more woke.
Did you say sun your perineum?
Yeah, you need to do a little
Tan
bit
your
of
taint?
You need to do a little taint tanning.
Tan your taint. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
right as the sun rises, you need to point your taint to the sun god Ra and absorb that energy. Straight to the taint.
AJ, what's the time on the board?
We're at 131.
Okay,
All right,
cool.
let's wrap this up.
I wasn't
then.
sure because the timer is a little
Yeah,
bit
we started a
different.
little bit later.
Yeah, it's,
Didn't want to jip you guys of any single solitary minutes of amazing content here at the Wheels to Walking podcast. Didn't want to jip you, but
Well, what was that one, Stinky? We're going to put some things in our butt.
womp womp womp. Yeah, thanks guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed our little movie commentary there at the end. It was kind of fun conversation.
Appreciate you guys. Stay tuned for merch. It's going to be...
Merch is gonna be sick. Merch is gonna be lit.
so
Keep
sick.
voting for us for Shorty Awards, please. Hopefully we make the finalists. That means we get invited to New York City and we get to go to the actual Shorty Awards, which would be really dope.
I think just by being nominated, you can go.
Maybe. I think
Or do you have to be a
think
finalist?
You have to be a finalist because they have like on the website once the voting is over, they announce the finalists, and I think the finalists get to go.
Yeah, but we're in a category that probably won't be recognized on stage, even if we do win.
Who knows? We'll see.
I mean, we know how tropey disability is these days,
Yeah,
and
I
we know,
know-
brands love to be like, look, we got a
I
gay
think-
guy here, we got a black guy here, we got a wheelchair guy here. Look at us, we're so
woke.
woke.
We're inclusive. We're very inclusive.
Look, we got a woman too.
And we voted Parasite Best Movie at the Shorty Awards. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening and watching, and follow us on places.
Follow some place to see it.